Hi, my name is Jerry Oy, and I'm with Applied Engineering. Today I'm going to go over Autodesk Inventor 2016, what's new. To get started, let's bring up Inventor, and on the My Home tab, upon opening up Inventor 2016, you'll see that there's a new Home tab. Within this Home tab, you can resize the three different panes that you see here. So that upper left pane, you have a couple different ways of seeing the information. This is the more simplistic version where you see just one template for the part, drawing, assembly, and presentation. You can hit that arrow and you get more of an advanced selection for creating your new different template files. English, metric, you have some of these templates that are outside of these subfolders, I guess. Off to the right, you see if I go to the Projects tab, you can see what project is the active project, and then here's all the other projects that have been created. Off to the right, there's just some general information about those projects, the location where the projects are saved. Workspace, I could click on Workspace, and that just navigates me to the parent workspace. Down at the bottom for recent documents, there's some different filters here for showing me the documents for the active project, or show me all of the recent documents, no matter what project they were part of. File types, I can filter off a couple different ones here, only show parts and presentation files, or show me all. I can sort by certain specs here, date modified, location where the files are, size of the files, and so forth. And date modified, show me all dates, last day, last month, last year, and so on. If I want to flip the panes around, so I have these two panes on the bottom and this larger one on top, I can just do a flip. If I flip it to something different than the default, I can then click reset, like so. I can do maximize recent, so this lower pane is the recent documents pane, so I can maximize that, and then once again go back to reset. If I open up an assembly file here, there's added visual styles in here. I could go to technical illustration, here's sketch illustration. I'm going to go to realistic here. There's additional lighting styles here. So there's more items here to choose from. And Inventor has improved on the realistic look of your parts and assembly files. Gives you a little bit better reflectivity of your parts depending on what material your parts have applied to them. I could click on ray tracing and really sharpen up this assembly file, this catapult. So say if I don't have a drawing yet created of this assembly, new for the 2016 software is the ability to right click and do create drawing view off of a template file, and I can move that view around. Other new items is to scale by grabbing these green corners here. View cube has been added to the drawing file, so I can reorientate my view just by clicking on specific areas of that view cube. I can click the gray arrow inside there to create an isometric view. You see the dialog box here for the drawing view dialog box has been significantly reduced. Still has the general functions that your other dialog box had with the 2015 software. It's just a slightly different way of accessing those different options here. Click OK, and then I'll just generate those documents. So I'm going to go into the Annotate tab, just create a parts list of one of these views. Don't necessarily matter what the style is of that parts list, how that parts list has been set up. But if I go in and insert some balloons, in the right click menu, there's this single segment leader option, and I'm actually going to uncheck that first. So in the older software, when you inserted balloons, I could insert as many jogs as I want, and then depending on where I want that balloon located, I'd right click and just do continue. there's that balloon. But now to speed up the process, if I right click, I can do single segment leader, and now all I have to do is just click on the components, click the second time for the balloon location. So component, and then select where I want the balloon. So it goes a lot more quicker to locate those balloons, having single segment leader turned on. If I want to align balloons, I can just hold down Control key, select those balloons, and in the right click menu I can do align, and I'm going to do align to edge and just select the edge of this part here. So now those balloons are actually aligned to that edge, they're parallel to that edge. Speed documentation, so adding your general text within your document. Now when you insert your general text, as I'm typing on the fly, the text actually gets added to the drawing. Like so, as I'm typing. Added to the format text dialog box is the ability to do bullets, to do numbering, you can do strike through operation. I think this one here's kind of a big one. A lot of times people may forget to have their caps lock turned on and they want it turned off. You can do that lowercase, uppercase like what I have, or you can do the title case where the first character in each word is capitalized. So if there's general symbols or say text that you want to add, some of you may be utilizing the sketch symbols folder within your drawing resources. Currently right now I don't really have anything, but if there's a static note that you add to all your prints, you would want to put those in the sketch symbols folder. So if I do a right click and do define new symbol, I'm going to create my symbol, and actually my symbol is just going to be that same note that I just added. So I'm going to add this note to all my assembly drawings. Like so. So there I inserted it. I'm going to do finish sketch, and I'm going to name it. I'm going to name it just general text. Actually, let's change that to do not scale text. Make more sense. Okay, so now it's been added in here. So now if I right click and do insert, I can insert that text as many times as I want, at as many locations as I want. Okay, so that was something that you could do in the older Inventor software, but the addition now is to be able to right click and do save to symbol library. So within your project file there is a folder called symbol library, and I can save sketch symbols to a symbol library for use in a totally different drawing document. And actually you see that I already had that that symbol saved in a different document. The document was just called general text, and then I had that symbol in there. So let's say if I delete this out of there. So currently right now I don't have a symbol in that folder. I can right click and do insert. It goes into this dialog box where I can specify what symbol drawing to use, and then I'll select on the symbol itself, and at that point I can insert that. So this is an actual symbol that came from an entirely different drawing file. I didn't insert it from this drawing file. So I'm going to go into a presentation file, and I'm going to go into the tweaks here. Actually, I'm going to delete those tweaks out of there and re-add the tweaks here. Okay, so here's my presentation file. I need to add those tweaks. So now going into the tweak component, the new software has the mini toolbar. There's options here you can see. You can move, do a continuous move, and rotate your parts such as your screws. Maybe you want your screws to turn as they're translating down into a hole or something to that effect. So how do you go about tweaking your components, just a matter of selecting those components. Now there's an arrow for your X, Y, and your Z. So I'm going to drag that arrow out. And I forgot to add this wheel here, so I'll just click on it and it adds it to that particular tweak. Once I have fine-tuned my tweak, I can then click this plus to apply and then go on to the next tweak. Apply, and I'll just do it, say, one more time. Select those three components. Let's move it out, and let's just move it up and apply it like so. Alright, I'm going to go into a file here, and say you bring in a file from another CAD software. So maybe I brought in a step file, IGES file, could be a Pro Engineer file, or something to the effect that it's basically a dummy 3D model, and I have no way of manipulating the different features. So I can bring that in, and in the modify area on my 3D model tab, there is a direct edit function. So clicking on that, I can select a face, and then depending on which filter I have selected, I'm just going to lock it here and grab the arrow, and I can actually adjust my what I call my dummy solid here. I'm going to change my filter to size, select this ID hole, and adjust it like so, and apply it. So I just added a couple features. Now on the Manage tab, Parameters, every direct edit that I did to this file gets added to the Parameters dialog box here. So it gives me a easy way of going in and modifying the different values. Now you see the update. All I got to do is modify it within this Parameters dialog box, and the updates appear. I want to bring up a surface extrude here. I created a surface extrusion going down to the center of this casted part, and I need to add some draft to it. So in the older versions, you could obviously add draft. That's always been part of the software. The thing that they've improved on is the fact that you can now draft going down a non-planar face. So you can see obviously this surface is basically a spline here. It's not on a flat plane. So now if I go into draft, and just select on that last button, specify my pull direction. From there, what's my parting tool, which is that surface extrusion. And then from there, for faces, I'm going to select the entire part. I have a value set of 5, and I'll just click OK. And let's turn off that extrusion. And now you can see I have my 5-degree draft going down that plane that was going down the center of the part here. So the ability to create drafts on a non-planar face. Bringing up a sheet metal part. Now within the sheet metal files, you can create multi-body parts within sheet metal. So I could have 2 different sheet metal parts. So ahead of time here, I did create a sketch on top of this face here, and you see I have some projected entities here, and I have some sketch entities. So I can go into the face and click on that, and I'll just click OK. Whoops, let's go back in here actually. I need to click on this new solid. This is a new feature now. So I'm going to do a entirely new solid. Now you can see in my solid bodies folder it says quantity 2. And now from here I can add some other features within this second body. I'm just going to adjust my bend location, and let's say maybe my length, like so. I like that, so I'll do apply. And I'm going to go over here and add another edge flange. Flip that around. Let's see how far down it goes. Just kind of fine tune it here. That looks good, my bend position. So I'm just going to click OK. So now you can see I have my two solid bodies. There's that main one that was already created, and then the one that I just created. Two different sheet metal files, which now from here I could make components. So I could basically break out these solid bodies into their own part file, and off of those separate part files I could then create a flat pattern out of them. So the ability to create multi-bodies within the sheet metal environment was added to the 2016 software. Within sheet metal files now, you now have the ability to, I'm just going to go back to this main part again, you now have the ability to do bend radiuses of 0. So I'm just going to go in and edit my bend. Instead of thickness, I'm going to set to 0 and just click Save. And now you can see that my inside bend radiuses are 0. Let's go back to thickness, and I'll save that and bring it back to its original state. When you're converting sheet metal files, or excuse me, part files into a sheet metal file, in the older versions of the software, you used to have to realize what the sheet metal defaults are set up to, such as your inside bend radiuses and the thickness of your material. Now, with the 2016 software, you have a standard part that, say, had a wall thickness of 100 thou. You convert that standard part into a sheet metal file, and Inventor 2016 will now figure out what the thickness is. You don't have to manually go into your sheet metal defaults and adjust it to what the thickness was when it was a standard state. So a lot more quicker as far as converting your standard parts into sheet metal parts. Automatic thickness detection on sheet metal conversion. If I go back into this catapult assembly and I want to do interference detection, so I'm just going to go into the Inspect tab and do Analyze Interference. So one kind of minute improvement is just the ability to make a window around multiple entities before you'd have to select them one by one. So that's define set 1 and define set 2. I'll select that main body and then do OK. So now it actually shows me in a dark red what the interfering bodies are. If I want to know what the volumes are, I can hit that chevron button, and if I scroll way to the right, there's a volumes column, and now it just tells me how much of those two parts are interfering within the red color there. Just not going to show you, but when it comes to creating patterns, both in the assembly and parts, you can now do mid-plane patterns of your assemblies or your part files. So say you have a row of 10 holes and you have a fastener in one of those holes, say the middle hole, I could then do a mid-plane pattern of those fasteners in both directions. Sheet metal parts. I'm going to go into the sheet metal part and I'm just going to create a new sketch on this face, and I'm going to just simply create a couple circles. That's good. So I'm just going to add a general dimension. This is not something new here, but what I am going to do is create a tangent dimension inside the inside. So all that I had done there, and I can just go in here and delete it. I'm going to select the circle, it doesn't matter where, but now on the second selection, if I scroll down, you can see my cursor changes to a tangent icon there. So now when I click, now I can do inside to inside. And that would be the same thing if I were to go to the outside and to that outside. You can do outside to outside also. absolutely huge improvement to the Inventor 2016 software is the ability to replace multiple components. In the older version, say on these 4 plastic wheels, if I wanted to change 2 of those parts, I would have to right click component and go down to replace for that first one, and then maybe I wanted to do that third one, I'd have to right click again, go down and replace. The second option would have been, if I want to replace all 4, then I could go down to component and replace all. But now I could go in and say just select 2 random selections in my model tree, and now in the right click menu I have the option to only replace 2 of the 4 within one instance here, replace, and I could go into, I believe it's dynamic here, let's see here, so here's a different representation of that wheel. So I just want 2 wheels replaced with that instance there. So, and now I just randomly select 2 components, right clicked, did replace, and I only had to do that one time. I didn't have to right click on each one and do a replace on it. I'm going to open up a new part document and show you any CAD technology, the ability to bring in a DWG underlay. So within the new part document on the 3D model tab, I'm going to click on import and go into AutoCAD Underlay, select the appropriate underlay here, select what plane I want that underlay positioned, and just locate it on my origin point. So now it's telling me inserting AutoCAD DWG produces an associative underlay. Underlay geometry can be used by projecting geometry into a 2D sketch. Okay, so there's my AutoCAD underlay, and I want to create a sketch on that same plane that I inserted that underlay on. So I'm just going to go into my XY plane, and now from here in the project geometry drop-down there is project DWG geometry. So I just want to project these entities here, like so, and then 3D model, extrude. I'm going to say I want that extruded, mid-plane, and I'm just going to measure that line. I'm going to go back and do extrude. Whoops. Just go into a new sketch. I'm going to go back into the extrude. Project geometry. Select that entity again. And let's select the inner one, like so. Now I can go to 3D model, extrude, and select the appropriate region. Let's do a mid-plane, and again I'm going to do a measure, and I'll just select this outer edge here. And I'm just going to go this far for right now. Okay, so let's just go ahead and save that. Now I'm going to go into the actual AutoCAD software and go into the folder where that AutoCAD Underlay .dwg file is, and make a modification, and then come back to this Inventor file, part 7, and you'll see that the file updates as it should. Okay, so I'll just go into this part. And let's attempt to resize it here. that one. Let's do this side. Again, I'll do 1.5 feet, like so. Save that document. Just go ahead and close out of it. Bring Inventor back up. Now there's a lightning bolt in my quick access toolbar, and lo and behold, my first extrusion has now updated with that DWG underlay. So I can drive the shape of my 3D part with an Inventor off of just that AutoCAD underlay. This is part of the AutoCAD technology. Lastly, I'm going to go in and delete those wheels. So say I never had wheels modeled. I wanted to bring in wheels from an entirely different CAD software, such as say SolidWorks or Pro Engineer or anything of that nature. There's now an addition in the Place drop-down menu to go down to Place Imported CAD Files. So this is where it allows you to bring in a wheel, in this case, from an entirely different file. So if I go in and go to SolidWorks, you can see I have two different wheels, narrow and a wide. So I'm going to bring in that SolidWorks wheel. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the wide wheel, I guess. Import type, there's reference model. What happens here is I can bring in that SolidWorks wheel into this catapult assembly, finish my assembly, and if I want to change the size of that wheel, all I would need to do is actually go into the native software. So I'd go into SolidWorks, make my necessary change, maybe changing the diameter or the width of the wheel, and then go back into Inventor, and in the quick access toolbar that lightning bolt would then show up and I could update it. Or this second option, convert model, that would break that link and I would no longer be able to update that wheel from going into the native CAD software. So I'm going to leave it reference model, click OK, and insert that SolidWorks wheel like so. Let's just do 2 instances here. Okay, and I'll just reorientate it a little bit like so. Let's add necessary constraints. Like so. Okay, so I decided that, hey, those wheels look a little gaudy, they're a little wide. I want to update those. So if I click on Edit Import, there's really nowhere that I can actually modify the shape of that part because it's a generic 3D model. If I go into SolidWorks here, and I'm going to open up the wide version of that wheel, and let's go into the revolve here and say just change this value to 0.5, enter, update that, and then I'll save it and close out of the file. Let's go back into Inventor. Lo and behold, there's lightning bolt in my model tree on those generic files here, letting me know that they need to get updated. So going up to the quick access toolbar, click on that lightning bolt, local update, and now my wheels have changed to a narrow wheel. So I did my best to keep it under 30 minutes. I really don't think I succeeded right there. Get a little heavy-winded sometimes, but